of the Northeast, many other states, backward states, SEZs, and in fact this will discriminate towards the development of these regions. I don't say that you have no heart to them, Northeast regions. You have a heart, but it's not enough to have a only political heart. You must have the real heart. Look into their agonies and the problems. And in fact, what will happen to them now? You have brought in an anti-profiteering clause under GST here. They are proposed to examine whether any reduction in a business cost base or cost or tax rate due to the implemented GST is passed on to the consumer in the form of appropriately reduced rates. There is no clarity how this provision could be implemented. It's a market economy where the demand and supply, they play the role. And in fact, Malaysian government informed industries and other concerned stakeholders regarding the implementation of this provision much in advance. You are suddenly bringing it. How it is going to, in a market economy, how you can operate it, how you can invoke it. Ultimately, then the number of people who can be put inside the jail for no reason. Somebody must have paid excess, somebody would not have, because of the ignorance of law, they could not abide by that. And GST's anti-profiteering penal provision is far too vague and draconian. And it could discourage companies from making efficiency improvements in supply chains as they are required to pass on the entire benefit to consumers. Chief Economic Advisor of our own government has made impatient plea to bring real estate under the GST net, linking it to the war against black money, the very important measure like the real estate, which is supposed to, that is supposed to be the area which brings in generates a lot of black money. And you are just ignored it. You are not included in this. Whether any lobbies have played the game? Yes. Or innocently you could not do it, or you may be thinking of some other strategy. That's a different matter. But in the absence of a clear understanding how this provision will be implemented, proposal appears to be intrusive, that goes against the objects of ease of doing business. This will be ultimately anti-profiteering provision, will be draconian in nature. Policy should be also GST implementation policy is meant to be a self-policing act. But the present provision of the harsh scrutiny is not substantially different from the present system. Interstate movement of goods. Again, there is substantial increase in the administrative and documentation. This will increase red tapeism. This will be an impediment in business operations. And GST law states that the government may require a person transporting any consignment of goods of value exceeding a specified amount to carry with him such documents as they may prescribe in this behalf, that a tax officer can intercept the vehicle at any point, any time. Yeah. What is the difference? Can create a lot of this, creates a barrier with the fundamental goals of GST. It goes against the heart, soul of the GST. This is again a very important matter where we require the intervention of the finance minister. The documents prescribed for interstate government of goods may be invoice generated by vendors, or interception should be an exception basis rather than a routine matter of check. And it will ultimately, this provision will also turn out to be retrograde. Entry tax is not clear with respect to the merger of these taxes with the GST. As far as the tax rates are concerned, of course you have already come out, but high rates will be damaging for the industry as well as the consumer. The government must resist from pursuing too many goods or services under the 18% bracket. There are too many rates. One nation, one tax.
Yeah.
This is what everybody is made to understand.
Yes.
It's only a myth. It's only a myth which is exploded by their own provisions, even at this stage. There are too many rates, virtually 7,
Yeah.
including exemption, lower rate on bullion, cesses, surcharges, etc. This itself will defeat the objective of GST. That's why I say that what you have brought today, I cannot call it, or nobody can call it a game changer. It is only a one baby step forward. I don't give more credit than a small baby step forward. Not a great reform which will make a game change in this country as it is intended by rhetoric which followed with the GST provisions. Regarding the cesses, we also don't know the fate of various cesses, surcharges, additional excise duty. As this is cess, surcharge, many of these segments are the real factors to distort the taxation structure. We need a clarification. Current rate structure, a cess has been proposed on luxury and sin goods over and above the higher rate, GST rate of 28%. In fact, it is, we'll have to settle this. Once for all, there should have been some prohibition, strict prohibition to see ensure that no cess, surcharge, additional excise duty will be imposed henceforward. This should have been the real intent. It should have been the genuine and legitimate intent. But I think at least this will have to be done. Taxation of self-supplies proposes all interstate movement of goods, services between two divisions of the same legal entity will be subject to tax. It will lead to significant compliance difficulties in so far as these provisions are concerned. In fact, any movement of goods and services from one state to another becomes subject to tax. Head office interacting with this production plant or distribution center is another state will now be considered to be rendering a service which will need to be valued and recorded in the books of account and then tax remitted on it. Same would apply to the marketing of or business development support provided by a group in one state to fellow team members in another state. And in fact, this requires again the refund itself is not automatic. It should have been automatic. What is that mechanism? What happened to the... Madam, ultimately I can explain to you, this would be a technological nightmare. Nothing is done to reduce the taxes. Technological nightmare. The officials implementing it are the people who are suffering this act. And ultimately all these activities will not contribute any incremental revenues to the government, as any tax payable would be fully creditable. But associated compliance procedures will increase the compliance transaction cost significantly. You cannot do it. In fact, giving a deduction, the process of deduction, and ultimately refund. Again, this provision is here. There is no ad hoc provision even to make payment, give credit. That has not happened. One more thing, very major thing which is nation has to consider very seriously. GST Council is only an extension of executive. I don't call it even an executive. It's only a coordinating body. It cannot substitute for the legislature, which remains paramount in our present constitutional structure. In fact, GST is only a coordinating body, not even an executive. Central legislation will have no power to abrogate the powers of the states.
Yeah.
What happens to the constitutional provisions? Of course, I have already, some of our friends, our colleagues have also filed an amendment on this. In fact, this is a very serious matter, and just don't take shelter on the constitutional amendment which we have already done. In fact, as per the constitutional framework provided under Article 107, 117 of the Indian Constitution, which prescribes the legislative procedure and the legislative relationship between the union executive and the union legislature. This has been totally, mainstream has been totally cut off. And in fact, this leads to real problem of a legislative independence. As per the present wording, it appears that only the GST Council and the central government matters, as notification can be issued merely on the recommendations of the Council by the central government. This is a fundamental contradiction to the basic legal framework and legal relationship between the union government and the union legislature, as envisaged in the Indian Constitution. We cannot abrogate this power, as it is the basic and fundamental feature of the Constitution of India. What happens? Let us remove all those spaces. All those